In today's episode of Locked On Pistons podcast, we will break down the Pistons' bad loss to the Cleveland Cavaliers, and we've heard from Malik Beasley as of late. Will the Detroit Pistons trade him at the trade deadline? We'll break all that down in today's episode, Locked On Pistons podcast. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I am your host, Ku Khahil. You can find me over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started today. Also, make sure you head over to LockedOnDaily.com, type in your email, and you'll get a Locked On Pistons daily newsletter along with your Locked On Pistons daily podcast. Subscribe to my personal YouTube channel where I'll be dropping film breakdowns and also streaming some live video game gameplay. And new update for you guys real quickly. Starting tomorrow in their game against the Indiana Pacers, I will be live streaming the Pistons games over on playback.tv where you can sit down, you can watch the games with me, you can come up and talk with me, chat with me in the chat below, and we can watch the game together. I'll put the link to that room where you can join and get notified when we go live in the comment section, or not the comment section, but the bio down below, whether you're listening to this on podcast or YouTube, it'll be down below. Join there. Can't wait to talk with you guys and watch the games with you guys moving forward. But now that we're done with all of that housekeeping stuff, the Detroit Pistons had a really tough loss to the Cleveland Cavaliers. We're going to break that down. We heard from Malik Beasley, who got interviewed and spoke a lot candidly about his future with the Detroit Pistons at the deadline. And then also I just want to give an update on some rumors we're hearing around the trade deadline that could impact the Detroit Pistons in the next week or so. So let's get into it. So like I said, we're going to start off with the Cavs loss. The Pistons lost this game 110-191. It was an overall just really, really bad game from the Detroit Pistons. And before we get into, really analyzing the game, I want to start off with this. I want everyone to understand the Detroit Pistons just went against one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NBA. The Cleveland Cavaliers have a case to be the best team in the NBA, and they very well may win the championship this year. That's how great they are. So losing to them should not be, the world is falling apart. Just losing to the Cavs, there's no shame in that. They're one of the, like I said, possibly the best team in the entire NBA. And not only are they, that great of a team, they're also a really bad matchup for the Detroit Pistons. However, with all that said, that doesn't mean you should just wipe away everything you saw in this game and just say it is what it is. There are themes that we're seeing in this game against the Cleveland Cavaliers that continue to pop up for the Detroit Pistons. There are themes that we are seeing in these last few games from the Detroit Pistons that are reoccurring every single game over the last week and a half. Really, this whole month of January, we've seen this theme, but Cade has been so good that it hasn't mattered, and their defense has been so good that they've been able to get away with it. But I just don't know how sustainable it is. And what you saw in this game against the Cleveland Cavaliers was a team with a great defensive personnel now that they're fully healthy, with Strus, with Evan Mobley, with Jared Allen, with Niang, especially those two guys, and Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, and their ability to just suffocate Cade, double him, and funnel him straight into the rim protectors. If you watched this game, you saw that the Cavs, one of their main objectives defensively was, if we're going to allow Cade to drive, we're just going to funnel him to one of our bigs, and we're going to help off one of the guys on the weak side. And most of the time, it was either, a Jalen Duren, obviously they're rotating over, even a Nassar Thompson, obviously. And they were playing really aggressive in the gaps defensively and doing a really good job of then getting out and closing out on shooters. It was just a great defensive performance from the Cavs, and that's what they are when they're fully healthy. But the problem that, again, I'm going to sound like a broken record. We've said this probably numerous times on the podcast the last few weeks. Even Hunter Patterson, Detroit Pistons beat writer of The Athletic, just came out with an article talking about this as well. It's a well-known issue that not just people in Detroit talk about, but nationally is being talked about. Look, we just recorded, you guys are probably going to hear it on Wednesday, I believe. We just recorded a Locked On NBA Squad East episode where we sat down with all the Eastern Conference teams, our Eastern Conference hosts, and we just talked about the East, and we talked about the Pistons for a good 8 minutes. And a lot of things you guys are going to hear is the Pacers host, Tony East, and you're going to see from a lot of guys, they bring up how their game plan against the Pistons really is just double Cade and have someone else beat you. And we talked about it a lot on the podcast. The Pistons just don't have any secondary shot creation. They don't have any other secondary playmaking. And against the good teams, they're going to game plan for that, and they're going to take Cade away or make life as hard as possible on Cade, and therefore the Pistons' offense will fall apart. And the Pistons are going to have to rely on their defense getting stops and allowing them to get out in transition, which has worked a lot of the time this month. But in this game against Cleveland, they're just not a good matchup for the Pistons. Their size with Mobley and Allen is going to be a problem against this team. Tobias Harris had no chance against Evan Mobley, no chance against Jared Allen. We know Jalen Duren struggles defensively. And then obviously they have two great guards on their team in Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. And the Pistons, look, like I've said many times before, one of these guys, almost every time, if you have multiple creators on the other team, one of them is going to be guarded by an undersized bad defender. Like, Asar can't guard both Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland at the point of attack. He can only guard one of them. And what Cleveland did was, most of the time, they put Malik Beasley, they put THJ, Simone Fontecchio, Marcus Sasser. Like, they put these guys in ball actions. They put these guys in the pick and roll and attack those guys. Because it doesn't make any sense to attack Asar. Asar's their best defender. But he can't guard all of them. So, if, let's say, THJ was guarding Donovan Mitchell or Darius Garland, then Donovan Mitchell took it, or then Darius Garland took it. This is too much firepower that the Cleveland Cavaliers have for the Pistons to match up with. They're a great team. So it is what it is. But a team like the Cavs and good teams, not just like the top of the East teams, but really good teams, are going to be able to expose that weakness. Great teams like the Cavs will completely shatter that weakness and you just get blown out like you did against the Cavs. But good teams like Indiana a few games ago when the Pistons played, funny enough, they play Indiana tomorrow night. But even Indiana did this exact same thing against Cade Cunningham. They doubled him, they trapped him a ton, and they said someone else is going to have to beat us. We're going to pressure the hell out of Cade full court, make it a living hell for him to get across half court. We're going to then trap him in the half court, and it's just going to be impossible for him to really get going. And if someone else beats us, so be it, but we don't believe it'll happen. And you're seeing that over and over and over again for the Pistons become an issue. So, look, we're going to talk about this in the next segment because Malik Beasley spoke, and it sounds like, is he going to be traded at the deadline? We'll talk about it, but the deadline a week away, around a week, 10 days away, the Pistons are going to have to decide, do they want to be a legit team this year in the playoffs? Because I truly think that this weakness for the Pistons is going to continue to get exposed, and I can see, I'm not predicting it, I'm hoping it doesn't happen, but this type of weakness is so unsustainable in my opinion that it can be a reason why the Pistons go on a losing streak, or they fall from 6th seed to the 9th seed, or something like that. This is not something that I believe is something you can continue to get away with every single night against good teams. It's going to be extremely hard to do so. Can they do it? I mean, they've done it so far, I guess, for the most part in January. And it'd be great if they can. But it's going to be extremely hard. And I do have concerns about whether this will break down Cade by the end of the year. The amount of offensive load he is carrying, the amount of pressure that he is facing nonstop throughout a game. I mean, Pistons fans have seen this before. Like, we have seen a star player carry the entire offensive load and look great for the majority of the season, then at the end of the year, fall apart. Now, I'm not saying, knock on wood, Cade's going to fall apart like, that type of way, but will he wear down? Will he start to play worse? Will he start to feel fatigued? That kind of stuff happens. So I think if the Pistons do want to be legit, they absolutely have to get this secondary creator, but I mean, it's just the same thing on display against teams like this, against teams like the Cavs, where if you don't have that, they will expose it, and they'll just blow you out because of it. Now, obviously, Cade had a really bad game in this game. 9 of 26 from the field, shot incredibly poorly from the field. The problem, like we talked about in the last episode about Orlando, is when Cade has these type of games, or he's struggling to get open shots, or the defense is keying on him to a point where they're forcing him to take tough shots, he doesn't have someone else that can then take the ball and create and get him an easier look, or get the offense an easier look to where all the focus is not solely on Cade. He doesn't have that. THA is not going to do that. Tobias isn't going to do that. Asar's not going to do that. Duran's not going to do that. Fontecchio, Sasser, like these guys are not going to do that. These are guys that will play off of someone else's gravity. They can't create their own gravity. Asar can a little bit in the transition. Ron can do the same thing a little bit in transition. But for the most part, in the half court, it is all Cade. It's all Cade. And good teams will expose it. So I think that's basically what you saw happen in this game against Cleveland. I don't think it's the fact that they just didn't try. I do think the refs really frustrated them in this game, especially Cade. He only got to the free throw line 4 times. I do think they let the refs frustrate them a lot. I mean, they only had 11 free throws. But listen, man, people are human. And I think even Malik Beasley said after the game, we're halfway through the year, we know that we're not going to get calls. We can't let that frustrate us. And while I understand that, at a certain point, there's a level of humanness to you that when you're out there and you're getting fouled and you're just never getting calls and you're watching the other team get 23 free throws and you're watching the other team get all these calls, all these whipping your head back and getting these touch calls, and you can't get anything, like, you can't tell me anyone's just not going to get frustrated by it. That's a hard thing to just not let bother you. So, again, I understand it, and I get Malik is right. He is right by saying that. You have to get up. You have to, not allow that to bother you. I just think that's a lot easier said than done. Like, watching it play out, it's going to be hard to not let that affect you. So, but that's my overall thoughts from after this game against Cleveland. I'm not going crash earth because they lost to Cleveland. I'm more so concerned about the repeated themes we are seeing over the last few weeks. And it's just, again, like I said, it's going to be put on full display against great teams. They'll just make it look really bad. And good teams, I think, can scheme against it and get wins against the Pistons. So I'm interested to see this game tomorrow against Indiana. Again, I'll be live on playback. I'll put the link down below, whether it's on podcast platforms and YouTube. It will be in the bio down below if you want to join and watch the game with me. But let me know what you guys think. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. When we come back, Malik Beasley sat down for an interview and spoke pretty candidly about his future in Detroit. We'll break all that down coming up. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, 2 teams, endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets with FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, the official partner of Super Bowl 59. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. There's another great way to support the podcast. And if you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel. Again, like I said, please, we're on our way to 10,000 subscribers. We're less than 500 subscribers away. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. I really would appreciate it. Also, head over to LockedOnDaily.com. Type in your email. You'll get a Locked On Pistons daily newsletter along with your Locked On Pistons daily podcast. And like I said before, hit that link down below in the bio. Join me over on Playback as we watch Pistons games live together. We'll be doing that tomorrow night against the Indiana Pacers. All right, so Malik Beasley sat down and had an interview where, again, like I said, spoke very openly about his future with the Pistons, why he signed with the Pistons, all that, and why he likes being in Detroit, all that. What I thought was most interesting, though, what I found most interesting was what he said his future, what he talked about his future with the Pistons was. Because as we've talked about, and I've said this to you guys now many times in the podcast over the last month and a half, and for those of you guys who listen daily, you guys know this, but I happen to know a few things about what maybe could be happening or what I'm hearing going on, and all that kind of stuff. And I told you guys a month ago that for sure Trajan and Malik Beasley, and this shouldn't be like rocket science or anything, but Malik Beasley and Trajan Langdon for sure, 100%, we're going to be talking a lot leading up to the trade deadline, because the decision on Malik Beasley will be like a domino effect to the rest of their decisions made for this season. And the reason that is, and we had an episode last week with Keith Smith of Spot Track. Go watch that. It was incredibly insightful, incredibly detailed on the whole cap situation with the Pistons, what's going on with Malik Beasley in the offseason, etc. But the reason why is because in the offseason, Malik Beasley will be a free agent, and the Pistons only have a set amount that they can offer him. If they are a tax-paying team, they can offer him around $14.5 million. If they are not, I believe it's around $8 million. Again, Keith Smith was incredibly detailed in the episode with us last week. I'd recommend go listening to it. But the overall point is that there's a cap to what the Pistons can offer Malik Beasley. And he may be looking for a payday. So maybe there's a cap space team that creates cap and offers him more than what the Pistons can give him, and he wants to go there. That could happen. If there's another tax-paying team that maybe is a contender and wants to use their tax-paying MLE on him and use that $14 million, does that situation look better than going back to the Pistons for the same amount, except on not a middling team, but like, not an NBA, not a title contender team. Like, all that stuff comes into account. And then you have to have an understanding of, okay, we're going to talk with Malik, figure out where he's sitting at, with this. Does he want to come back? If he does want to come back, etc., okay, then we'll keep him, whatever. But if there's any hesitancy, if there's any like, okay, we feel good, but there's maybe an opening where we're not sure if he can stay, like, all that stuff needs to be thought about when you decide at the deadline, do we move him for some assets? And in this interview with Malik Beasley, this is what he had to say concerning his future with the Detroit Pistons. He was asked on his future and the upcoming trade deadline. He said, "Me and Trajan have been talking a lot. We're trying to figure out what's going to happen. I still have to get through this trade deadline. There are some championship teams that want me, but I told Trajan I like where I'm at. He told me about the impact I've brought. Hopefully he agrees, but he also told me it's a business. If a championship team comes with a crazy deal, the business is the business. We're just waiting for the deadline to go through. After that, I think we'll start talking about maybe if we can put something together." So, there's two different ways you can look at this. And I think both ways of looking at it is true. It's clear that Malik Beasley likes it here in Detroit. I think it's clear to say that he probably would like to be here in Detroit. And Trajan is aware of the impact he's brought on and off the court. Like, all that is true. And would they like to have Malik back? I do believe that's the case. I think Malik says that here, and I do believe, based on things I've heard the last month, that Trajan would like to have Malik back on a deal this offseason. However, the part that really sticks out to me here, because I already knew all that. I think everyone already knew that his impact on and off the court has been felt. The part that sticks out here to me is the fact Malik goes out of his way to say himself that Trajan has told me, and I understand, this is a business. If the Pistons get a good deal, then I'm gone, and I'm cool with that. I know championship teams want me. Championship teams are trying to trade for me. I get it. So why I would like to be here, Trajan has let me know that he would like me here, but at the end of the day, if I get a good offer, I'll have to move on from you. That's the part that sticks out to me. Now, he didn't exactly say that word for word, but you get it. Like, that's the part that sticks out to me there. Because I know there's a lot of Pistons fans that feel like he should just be, don't trade him. He's untouchable for this season. You bring him back. You do not move him under any cost. What that says to me is that Trajan would like to have him back, but there is a price that I will move on from you. I will trade Malik if I get a good deal. If I feel like I get some good assets, I will move on from him. And the assets, I don't believe would be like going and getting an upgrade at the 2-guard position. It wouldn't be going and getting another shot creator. It would be moving Malik Beasley for future assets, which we've been told from Trajan multiple times is a goal of his. He wants to get assets. He wants to acquire assets that the Pistons do not have. And I do believe there's also, again, I've believed this all season. We'll see if I'm right or wrong. But I do believe there's a strong part of Trajan that even with the team playing this well, there is a part of him that is like, I really would like to keep that pick. So if he does get offered a good deal for Malik Beasley, let's say he gets offered 3 seconds. Let's say he gets offered 4 seconds. Heck, maybe let's say he gets offered a late first from a contending team. Let's say he gets offered that. I do believe there will be a part, and I do think the front office will look at like this, and we'll discuss this, that this could be like a 2 birds, 1 stone situation. You get future assets for Malik, whether that's, like I said, 3, 4 second-round picks or a late first if a contending team's willing to offer that. Now, I don't think a contending team, if I had to guess, I don't think a contending team would give up that much. And I do think that's what it would take to get Malik. But you never know, 1. And 2, all it takes is 1 team. All it takes is one. So if they were offered that, I do think Trajan would look at it as, potentially, two birds, one stone. We get future assets from Malik Beasley, and we're also, basically, probably if we do this, we will probably be subtly tanking. Or not tanking, but subtly not trying to win as much as we've been. And we probably will fall down the standings a little bit, to a point where we will fall in the top 13. Like, I think that would be the argument for that. Now, again, I don't think that Trajan is just going to trade Malik just to trade him. That's not what I'm saying. I want everyone to hear me clearly. I do believe that the Pistons want to keep Malik. I do believe, like Malik has said himself, he likes it in Detroit. And if they can come to an agreement on a deal, they will come to an agreement on a deal because they both like their situation together. But, just like they both said, this is a business, and Trajan is open for business if you give the right price. So, that is what I'm not saying he wants to get rid of Malik. I'm not saying that he's actively just going to try to give Malik away for nothing. What I'm saying is, if that deal does not come around, they're fine keeping Malik and signing him to a 2-3 year deal, whatever it is. If they do get that offer, all I'm saying is I think Trajan would probably look at it and be like, okay, this is a good deal, and at the same time, we'll probably lose a little bit more and keep our pick, which I think he wants to do. Or I won't say completely wants to do. I just think that there is a part of him that would not be, I guess, sad about that, I think, if you get what I'm saying here. And to put a little bit more, give a little more info on this, the Pistons, as of right now, have the 15th pick in the NBA, in the lottery. They're 2 games behind. Actually, they're just a game behind 13th, which is Sacramento. So they could make the play-in, lose early in the play-in, and squeeze in at that 13th spot and keep their pick. Now, I know people don't like hearing that because people, and I understand it. The team's played well. They're having a good season. They're 6th seed right now. I get all of that. But I think, again, all of this is stuff that is being considered. All of this is what goes into the thought process of the front office and what they're thinking about heading into the deadline. So I found this quote pretty interesting to me. Again, I'll make it clear one more time. I think it's very clear that they would like to sign an agreement with each other in the offseason, and Malik likes it here, and Trajan likes Malik. But there is a price that would be met that could change course. And it seems like Malik has been made aware that that is the case. He's understanding of that. He's cool with that. And it seems like Trajan is cool with that as well. So it's going to be interesting. If I had to put my money on it, though, I want to make it clear. If I wanted to put my money on it, I would bet that Malik will not be traded, and he will sign long-term with the Pistons in the offseason. I don't believe a team's going to meet that asking price. But like I said, anything is, all it takes is one team. That's all it takes. All it takes is one team to do it. So we'll see what happens, man. This trade deadline is going to be really interesting. So let me know in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. What are you guys thinking? What did you guys take away from Malik Beasley's quote here? Also, he was interviewed, and there was a lot of other things he said as well. He talked about why he likes being in Detroit, the type of impact he believes he's made, what's his thoughts on Cade. There was a bunch of other stuff to the interview too. So you can find that over on hoopshype.com. He interviewed with, I believe, Mike Scotto. Let me make sure about that. Mike Scotto here. He interviewed with him over at Hoops Hype. So go check that out to see the rest of the stuff they talked about. But again, let me know. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. When we come back, I just want to give an update on some things that we are hearing involving the trade deadline and some rumors that could impact the Detroit Pistons. We'll talk about that when we come back. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. Head over to LockedOnDaily.com, type in your email, you'll get a daily Locked On Pistons newsletter along with your Locked On Pistons daily podcast. And also, again, like I've told you guys, we'll be streaming live on playback.tv. I'll put the link down below for you guys to join where you guys can watch the Piston games with me, talk with me, come up, hang out with me, all that kind of stuff during the Pistons games. It would be fun. All right, so let's talk about some of these trade rumors that are going around that could impact the Detroit Pistons. So the reason why I'm looking down at my phone is because Mark Stein just released on his Substack an update on the trade deadline. I'm just going through this to make sure there's not anything in here. It literally just dropped 5 minutes ago. So I'm just going through here real quick just to make sure I don't see anything that could involve the Detroit Pistons. Don't think so, Not seeing anything here. Yeah, don't see anything here concerning the Pistons. All right, anyways. So, one rumor that came out, or report that came out a few days ago, actually, I believe it was yesterday it came out, that apparently the Pistons have had exploratory talks with the Chicago Bulls involving Lonzo Ball. Now, that's one. I would like that trade. I don't think you'd have to give up much of anything. I think, honestly, the trade would be something like Simone Fontecchio for him, or maybe a second or two for him. Like, I don't think that's a big deal, and I would do both those deals, to be honest. I think Lonzo, he brings you that other playmaker. He brings you that other guard that can set the table, run the offense, etc., and move Cade off ball a little bit. He's also a good off-ball shooter. Now, I know Lonzo's been a little up and down this year, shooting-wise and scoring-wise, because, this is his first, he's been out for 2 years due to that injury. But he's trending upwards. He's now up to 35% from deep. He has a long history of being a good shooter. I just think the more he plays, the more he's going to continue to knock off that rust. He's been looking better in the month of January. I think more so what he would bring to the team is his ability to set the table, be that point guard, be the guy that can run the offense, and kind of take some of that responsibility off of Cade. And I think most people believe that he will continue to shoot better as the season goes on. Like I said, he's been shooting better in January. He's been getting better and better and looking more like Lonzo. Just, I think, again, you got to give him time to knock some of that rust off. So I would take that deal. And again, it's not like you're giving up a lot of, I would not take that deal as if like there's a deal already out there. I would be interested in Lonzo. I don't think it would cost a lot at all. And I think it would be a worthy gamble. Also, he's on a 1-year deal. So you free up cap space if you do it as well. Let me just confirm what his salary cap number is. I believe it's $25 million. I believe that's what I'm remembering it as. Hold on, let me just confirm that. Get that number up here. Of course, my PC wants to. $21 million. Okay, this is his final year of a $21 million option, and the Pistons would have cap space. Maybe they could re-sign him in the offseason if they wanted to, but this would also free up a lot of cap for them as this offseason if they did that. So that's another positive to it. And you're not giving up a lot at all, and he helps in the meantime, the second half of the season. Maybe he plays well, you bring him back. If not, again, you create cap space. That's one. Two, the other thing that's going on in the trade market that I think will impact the Pistons, has been speculated to impact the Pistons and really the entire NBA, is what's going on with Jimmy Butler. According to reports now, again, coming out today, now I'm recording this on the 28th, Brian Windhorst says that the offers for, let me backtrack, my goodness. The value, not the offers, the value of Jimmy Butler has went down. The Miami Heat desperately want to get rid of him now before the deadline because of all the antics, everything. So now the value has went down on Jimmy, which now has, reportedly, brought a lot more teams into the mix, and now there's a lot more teams trying to trade for him. And what that means is that there's going to be more pieces at play and different pieces at play for a team like the Detroit Pistons that have been speculated to be that fourth team or that third team that takes on the additional salary to help facilitate a Jimmy Butler deal. There was something I saw earlier that I think would be interesting. I'm not saying I would do it. I saw it and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder about that. Is if the Warriors went after Jimmy, would the Heat want Andrew Wiggins' contract? And would the Pistons take on Wiggins' contract with for assets as well? Like, could they be that third team that takes on Andrew Wiggins' contract? Excuse me, because the Miami Heat don't want that contract coming back for Jimmy. I want to pull up Andrew Wiggins' contract real quick, if I may, just to confirm what it is. I know it's a pretty heavy contract, but it's not like Bradley Beal or anything. He's getting paid $26 million this year, $28 million next year, and then a player option for $30 million. So it is a decent-sized contract. It's not an insane contract, but it is a decent-sized contract. But the argument would then be, okay, would Wiggins actually help the Pistons in that time? Like, for those 3 years, would he take up that cap space and actually be a helpful player for the team? And could you get an asset with him? I mean, that would be the argument. But that was just something I saw earlier. That could be interesting. The overall point is, though, it's not just Wiggins. The overall point is that with more teams joining the Jimmy Butler sweepstakes, you have it, if you want to call it that, there's going to be more players available and more pieces available that could be thrown the Pistons' way if the Pistons want to get involved and be that 13th, 14th for a Jimmy Butler deal, which has been speculated will probably be the case because they have that $14 million available in cap space. Another thing that could impact the Pistons that has been rumored over the last few days, this kind of goes back to Lonzo a little bit, but more so just the Bulls in general. Reportedly, reportedly the Bulls are completely going fire sale. The only player on their team that's untouchable, according to reports, is Matas Buzelis. So everyone else available. Everyone. They're trying to get rid of all of them. They're trying to sell at the deadline, trying to rebuild. They're ready. So could the Pistons get involved in a Levine? Could they get involved in a Vooch? Heck, could they even get involved in a Kobe White, a Patrick Williams? Like, they have a lot of pieces over there in Chicago that actually are some interesting players. So could the Pistons get involved and get some of those guys? Who knows? Maybe. Just stay tuned with a lot of the stuff going on in the NBA right now. A lot of the trade rumors, because this is what you need. A lot of you guys need to understand. This is the main message I would say for NBA or Pistons fans in regards to the NBA trade deadline. Any trade rumor, any trade report that comes out, it's very possible that it will be directed or involve the Pistons somehow, because they have that $14 million in cap space. They will likely be the main team called in any deal that's made to absorb salary. So any trade rumor you hear, I would suggest to go look at teams, go look at trade machines, go look at salary cap sheets, and just look at what it could look like. Because I'm telling you, any rumor that comes out involving any highly ranked player or interesting player that team wants that's on any kind of decent to big salary, it's very likely that the Pistons probably will be involved. So just stay tuned to all of that. But those are the quick updates I have right now for you as I'm recording this. There's nothing else that really came out that I feel like needs to be spoken about, at least as I'm recording this on the 28th. So let me know in the comment section down below what you guys feel is going to happen at the trade deadline. Any trade rumors you guys have seen that you think the Pistons should get involved in. Let me know all that. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. That's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe out there, my goodness. And until next time, see you guys later. Peace out.